JBH Boutique Care offers you a unique exclusive membership in our nationwide concierge medical services network. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Judine Bontemps-Hill. I'm double board certified in family and obesity medicine. We pair exclusive personalized care with accessibility and convenience. A better way for you to receive immediate quality medical care. Whether at our main Orlando, Florida office, traveling across the U.S. or visiting the States, we bring you the best medical care without waiting for an appointment. Become a member today by calling 407-234-5282 or visit us online at jbhmeg1.com. JBH Boutique Care is proud to sponsor Sounds of the Diaspora, music and conversations with artists, and host Dion Parson every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Sounds of the Diaspora, Artist to Artist Conversation with Dion Parson. It brings me great pleasure and joy to have this artist on tonight, someone I've known for many, many years. I actually knew her before she was out here doing her thing, performing, singing, and just bringing joy to a lot of her audience. Please join me in welcoming Miss Andromeda Turre to Sounds of the Diaspora.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Hi, Dion.
Hey, Andromeda, how you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming on the show. I know you're super busy. You have so much going on in your world, being a mommy and a musician and a wife and all of those good things. It brings me joy every time I hear about all the good things that you're doing. So thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come and hang out on the show with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love this show, so I'm glad to be on it.
Great. So, you grew up in a musical family, and not only did your parents play, but like everyone around you played, and you were always surrounded by music. What made you decide to pursue it, besides it being around you all the time? Because, not every child of a musician choose to do that. What made you decide to pursue music?
I mean, the first thing that I can remember is the sound of music. And it wasn't just that everyone in my family played music. Like all of my parents' friends are also, if they're not musicians, they're dancers, painters, poets, as Rahsaan Roland Kirk would say, Eulipians, right?
Right.
And so I didn't grow up around people that had normal jobs. So I never considered doing that because I had no model of like, oh, you get up and you go to the office. Like I didn't know that lifestyle. So I guess it just seemed completely normal and natural for me to follow a Eulipian path. And I actually started as a dancer when I was a kid. And then I really got into singing in middle school.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So after middle school, what was your motivation moving forward?
Yeah, well, when I went to high school, it was really, I had some incredible teachers. Shout out to Pam Axton, who was the choir teacher at Montclair High School where I went. And she scooped me up and she realized that I had a natural propensity to hear harmonies very well. I played piano since I was 5. I studied with Cornelius Smith, who's an incredible pianist and composer. I actually talked to him today. He's doing great. But so once she realized I could hear harmonies, she ran 4 or 5 different choirs and she had me sing in all of them. And she would take the score. It would be like first soprano, first alto, second alto, tenor, bass. And whatever the hardest parts were, she would highlight those for me because I could also read the charts. And I was skipping around as I was reading. And I used to get so mad at her at first, but because I'm like, I got 2 bars of first soprano, then I'm singing the tenor for 5 bars, and then I got to jump to alto 2. I was like, what is this? But it really was a great ear training. And so that really helped to get me to understand music theory and stuff like that. And then shout out to Patrick Dearborn, who was the high school musical theater teacher, who was like, well, I heard you in the choir. You need to be on the stage for musical theater. So I auditioned for the ensemble, and he was like, no, you're going to be the lead in the school music. And I was so nervous because I thought I would be in the background. And that was kind of the end. Once I did that show, I was like, oh, I kind of like this.
That's great. That's great. I
Yeah.
mean, it's good that you had all those positive influence outside of the home also, because that's another thing, to find that positive environment, especially in school, because not every school has that rich musical environment. So you had it at home and you had it outside the home, and a lot of encouragement, which
Yeah.
which you can tell, because you've always been so positive. Ever since I've met you, you've always been so positive about the music and very excited and eager to learn. So you graduated from high school, and then you started making some good moves for yourself. What happened after high school?
I went to Boston Conservatory for theater, actually, because I thought I would continue on with musical theater. But I got there and I realized that it wasn't really for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I dropped out. And for a while after I left Boston Conservatory, I was like, maybe I don't want to do performance. And so I got my license as a makeup artist, and I was working as a makeup artist. I took a semester off, and I was working on Broadway at the Phantom of the Opera doing makeup backstage.
Mm-hmm.
Gail played in the pit orchestra there, so she made the introduction for me. And they had a Christmas karaoke party for Phantom, and I sang something, and the guy who played the Phantom at the time, his name was Hugh Panero, was like, why are you my makeup artist?
Exactly. Like, what's going on here?
And I was like, oh, well, I was like, I don't know, 19 or 20. And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, no, you have to do music. So I went back, and I went to Berklee, and from there I got the job with Ray Charles, and that was it. I've just been singing ever since.
Great. So you mentioned Ray Charles, and you
Mhm.
work with some notable artists out here. So how was Ray Charles when you started working with? How was that experience?
It was amazing. I had auditioned, and then I got the job, and the movie Ray came out after I had worked with him, so I didn't really know that much about him in that sense. I
Mm-hmm.
only was familiar with his music, and I was obviously very, very excited. And he hadn't had a background vocalist that could really read or write music, and so he had me transcribe. Everything is in 5-part harmonies for Ray, and we all sing around one microphone. So it's nearly impossible to like isolate who's singing what. So he had me transcribe all of the vocal parts. So I did get like a little extra time with Ray and get to know him. And that was a special experience. I still have, remember cassette tapes?
Yeah.
I still have cassette tapes from some of that time where I was like, can you play that part again so I can write it down? That
So
was
that
amazing.
must have been exciting for you, because not only did you perform with Ray, but your uncle performed with Ray,
And my dad.
and your dad performed with Ray for
Hmm.
many years.
And my mom too.
Yes,
My
that's right.
mom did strings with him.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was really lovely to be able to have that opportunity. But I was 23, and when I joined, the next youngest person in the band was 45. So I felt like a fish out of water in so many ways, but everybody was very kind. And my uncle Pete, who was the drummer in Ray's band at the time and had been for over 20 years, he, obviously looked out for me.
Mhm. Great. So, you have all of these wonderful experiences going on, and you come from a musical family, and you're making your way in the industry, and you're doing other things, because you also sang with Bublé, and you did some off Broadway shows and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
and these are great opportunities for you. And then you decided to do your own thing, and your own thing is different than most singers out here, I have to say. And I really admire the path you took. But you do a lot of corporate jobs, you do a lot of things behind the scene. You're not out here looking to be a major solo artist, but you have a purpose, and I want you to share that with our audience.
Yeah. So when I sang with Ray, I was 23 and I'll be 43 this year. So I've been working as a professional jazz vocalist for 20 years now. And I've sort of remained in the shadows. Like you said, I do a lot of corporate work. I started my own business quite young, doing corporate private events, and I'm singing jazz at all these events. And I do background vocals, like you said, Michael Bublé. I do a lot of recording studio work and all things that are kind of in the background, right?
Mhm.
It's like I'm still in middle school or high school, like trying to be an ensemble. And I was totally fine with that. Like I always say, a lot of my music, I write music also, and a lot of it gets licensed for film and television and video games. I always say, everybody's heard my voice. Nobody knows it's me. And
Right.
I'm fine with that. But when this project, my album that just came out a couple of weeks ago, came to me, I realized that if I go through with this, I'm going to have to step into the spotlight in a different kind of way. And I had to find the courage to do that.
And you did it. I mean, I know it's a labor of love, and we're going to talk about the studio process and all of that, but I want you to tell our audience the name of the album now, and then how long did it take you to actually put together, and why you choose the musicians that's on it, because you got some amazing talent on there.
Thank you. So the album is called From the Earth, and it is an original jazz suite that I composed to highlight environmental justice and humanity's deep, deep connection to the earth. The idea for it actually started in December of 2022. I was in Iceland. My best friend calls me and she's like, "You were my maid of honor. My husband and I are renewing our vows. Like, you have to be there. You and your husband have to come." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "Great. We're doing it inside a glacier in Iceland." I'm like, "What?" So I was like, "Okay, let's go." So in the middle of December, I fly to Iceland and we hike 2 hours down inside a glacier so I can watch my best friend renew her wedding vows. And it was so beautiful. But what really struck me was, as I started to hike down into this glacier, I felt this overwhelming sadness that seemed like it was coming from the glacier, as if it was aware of its own demise as it was melting.
Hmm.
And that really struck me. And I went back to the hotel that night and I wrote the first song for this suite, which is the one that's called Cryosphere. From that song, I'm writing it from the perspective of the glacier. I'm saying, like, now it's happening to me. It's like the awareness of the melting. And then a few days later, I was standing on the black sand beach in Iceland. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Mm-hmm. I've been to Iceland, but I've never been on the black sand beach.
Oh, it's stunning. And it has these huge, giant blocks of ice that look like diamonds. You can Google it. It's so beautiful. And it felt like the sea was calling to me. And on the beach, I wrote Hydrosphere, which was the second song that I wrote for the album. And I came back to the States and I was like, well, this is the beginning of something, but I didn't know what. And I didn't feel like I should be writing an album about Iceland because I'm not Icelandic. I have no connection to their culture. But I am a mom and I am somebody who's very curious about what's happening with climate change here. And so I started to research more about what's going on with climate change. And I very quickly discovered that the communities that are kind of struggling right now with issues from climate change are some of the same communities that are struggling with the remnants of redlining or colonization. And I thought, this is a conversation I know how to have. This is work I know how to do, not just growing up in the jazz world where, like, you know, when I was a kid, my mom played in Max Roach's band. You want to talk about an artist that used his work to further social justice issues. We have Max Roach, Rahsaan Roland Kirk, my dad played with. He was very outspoken. Dizzy Gillespie, like all of these artists sort of use their platforms for that. So that's a tradition that I grew up with and that I really respect. And I knew I could carry that on by using jazz. So I composed this suite. I applied for grants, which is how I was able to pay to have the incredible musicians that I have on there. And so I needed to find musicians that could not only play what I had composed, but also whose hearts and spirits would be in the right place
Right.
to sort of usher in an album that takes you on a journey through earth, sky, sea, and ice. It's kind of like 4 concertos, and would make space for these I did interviews with activists that you also hear on the record.
That's great to come up with that concept. Not too many artists are doing concept recordings, and then for you to tackle the challenges of global warming and stuff like that. I'm really excited the fact that you're using your voice and your musicianship to be activists, because I think that's a lost tradition that a lot of the young artists don't pursue. Even those that are talented and have a voice, they don't do it because it's like, oh, it's going to interfere with my career, and they're so career driven that they don't see the value of actually supporting a cause as well. So this is really exciting. I listened to some of the music that you shared. Well, I listened to all of the music you shared, rather, and it's really, it takes you on a sound story. I called it a sound story when I listen to music, and it's really, well, I want our audience to hear it, because at the end of the day, they're gonna have their feeling about it. But you've really touched on a number of points with your music, and you mentioned the wonderful musicians that you have on this recording. From the Earth is the name of the recording, and tell us some of the musicians that's on it, like the core musician.
The core musicians are in the rhythm section: Elu on piano, Richie Goods on bass, and Gene Lake on drums. And then you hear Chen Chen Liu on marimba and vibraphone, with Steve Turre, my dad, on trombone, and Seashells and Chelsea Barrett's on saxophone. That's the core band.
Wow, that's an amazing group. That's you put together the
100%. 100%.
I love it. How long were you guys in the studio?
2 days. We recorded this in 2 days.
Okay. And all of this was done like over the last 2 years?
We recorded it in January of this year, January 24th and 25th, I think. We went up there. So with the grant funding that I had received, it paid for a full day rehearsal, and I did a public concert here in my own community in Bedford at our little we have like a community theater. Mm-hmm. And so we rehearsed there all day, and then I did a free concert of the suite there. And then that night we left and we drove up to Rhinebeck, New York, to the clubhouse where we spent the next 2 days recording the album. So it was all done there.
Great. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really excited. I want to jump into the first song.
Great. What's first?
I think the first song we have is Margaret's Lament.
Yes, Miss Margaret's Lament.
Mm-hmm. That's a beautiful song. So let's check that out, and then we could talk about it.
Great.
Yes.
Health is related to exposure, proximity, land use, zoning, and enforcement. Those 5 things relate back to who will be impacted or vulnerable.
Across the bay, it's a plea from yesterday, yet it's crying out today. Walk a mile in another shoes, you'll be singing out the blues, but you can choose to walk away.
Where I live at, don't open up the windows in my bedroom because of the abundance of trucks that run through that main street. At any given time in West Oakland, there could be up to 10,000 truck trips a day. Then that's not including the diesel fuel that they're using for the cargo handling equipment, the trains, and the ships. If you live in a proximity of where the trucks travel, constantly opening your windows, your house has a dark gray ring at the top of your ceiling and on your window sills, on your Venetian blinds, and on your window sills from the trucks. People call it dirt. It's not dirt. It's particulate matter. It's finer than a hair. It goes into your nose and into your lungs. So our fight has been how to reduce the emissions.
See the writings on the wall. It's a message for us all. If we'll open up our eyes, walk a mile in another shoes, you'll be singing out the blues. But you can always choose to walk away. What if we all had to stay in the bed we lay, in the mess we make? We'd figure a way to settle the
children in Oakland to the flatlands in emergency hospital from the ages of 0 to 5. And those are zip codes of 94607, 94608, and 12. All the elementary schools and middle schools, the nurse has inhalers with the students' names on them. So that's how we know there's still a problem with asthma. We did an overview about asthma, and we went to the child care center, and 50% of the children had inhalers. Before they go out to play at recess, they have to use the inhalers, and when they come back in.
Hear the call from across the bay. It's a plea from yesterday, yet it's crying out today. Walk a mile in another shoes, you'll be singing out the blues. But you can always choose to walk away. What if we all had to stay in the bed we lay, in the mess we make? We figure a way to settle the strain.
What makes me most upset is the power of the pen, capitalism, profiteers. I'm hurting.
I really enjoy that, the message behind of it, and just listening to the spoken words and the interviews you did with those women talking about the challenges in their community, which is real. It's real.
Yeah. So the woman that you heard, her name is Miss Margaret Gordon. She lives in Oakland, California, where she has been an environmental activist since she was 13 years old, and she's now in her mid-70s.
Wow.
And they're still fighting the same fight. They've made progress, but it's been an uphill battle because you hear what she's talking about. Like they have such issues with air pollution there. And so she runs an organization called the West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project, WOEIP.org. And And through that, she's doing all of this work to not only educate her community, which is a historically Black community, but anybody else who, if you're watching now and you're having issues related to air pollution in your community, she has so many resources and she's so happy to share them and get on Zoom and help other communities learn how to create and fight for policies and best practices to help save lives, really.
That's great. That's great. And the lyrics behind the song came before, after you had these conversations with these women?
That song was written afterwards. So I did that interview with her, which, man, I talked to her for like 2 hours. It was so hard to cut it down. But then once I cut it down and I was like, how now what am I going to build around this to support what she's saying? And so for that particular track, I was inspired by Gil Scott-Heron, the revolution will not be televised.
Right.
And also she's talking about transportation, right? It's 10,000 truck trips a day. It's the diesel fuel from the cargo handling equipment, the ships, the trains. So that's why I went with that groove, like the tick, tick, tick.
Right.
It made me think of like the train sort of chugging through her community. So that's how I sort of scored it. And then my dad is actually from the Bay Area. And so I had him take a solo on there as well, just to make that Bay Area connection.
Yeah. It's a beautiful song. It really makes a lot of sense, but the message is deep. And again, I can't say this enough. I just want to applaud you for doing this, because again, I wish more musicians with a voice can be more active and jump in on some of these challenges that we're having as a community, not only in the Black community, but in the world.
Oh, it's all over the world. It's all over the world. Yeah.
But again, back in the 70s and the 60s and stuff, I remember being a kid and just listening to the radio when television just started and watching from the version. I was watching the news from the US, and all of these artists was going to the streets and presenting their songs and singing about the challenges and the wrongs that was happening, and civil rights and all of that. So I applaud you for taking a stand and presenting the stories of those that don't have the microphone. So continue.
Thank you.
This is a great song. It's a great song to begin with, but the message behind it is even more powerful.
Thank you. And it's women like Miss Margaret, who is interviewed on that track, that also really helped me to find the courage to put this out there in a certain way, because I want her story to be told. And that means that I can't stand in the background. Like, I really have to get this out there so that more people can hear what she has to say. Right. And that gives me the strength to be like, okay, well, let's I threw my hat in the ring and submitted the album for Best Jazz Vocal Grammy. Right. And it's like, not because I'm like, I need to win a Grammy. So it's like, even a nomination helps to get more people to listen to what she and the other women on the record have to say, because that's really the point here. And even you giving me the chance here today to play her song and get all of your listeners to hear what she has to say has given me the courage to just keep putting myself out there. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome with that. And that's what this platform is for. Sounds of the Diaspora was created to present the music from the African Caribbean diaspora and just tell the story of our folks. And so your story will be told tonight, along with Miss Margaret's story and everybody else's story.
Yeah.
So our next composition that you shared with us is one that I really enjoy listening to this, because of the uniqueness of the instrumentation that you brought on this. Geosphere.
Geosphere.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the second track on the album after the poem from Betty Niels.
Okay. Well, let's check it out.
Mm-hmm.
Geosphere.
sincere. Beneath the surface, magic is happening in the earth. We all live on the geosphere, woven into the life that's here. We build our houses and nourish our bodies from the earth. Gravity always keeps us here. Beneath the surface, magic is happening in the earth. We all live on the geosphere, woven into the life that's here. We build our houses and nourish our bodies from the
Okay,
Yeah.
let's talk about this song.
Yeah. So
This is a
Geosphere,
deep song.
yeah. Yeah, it is the song on the album that has the most literal lyrics, like we build our houses and nourish our bodies from the earth. Like
Right.
I really wanted to sort of bring us into this harsh reality. Like we are not separate from the earth. We cannot exist without the earth. It features a beautiful solo on marimba from Chen Chen Liu,
Mhm.
who was a dream to work with. And I'm also playing the crystal singing bowl. You
Right.
hear sort of the ooh, that's
Yeah,
I'm playing the crystal bowls on several tunes on the record. And Geosphere, the album is structured in 4 concertos. So the first song of each concerto sort of brings you into that realm. So that's what the purpose of Geosphere is. Then, the second track features an interview from a community member, like the one you heard on Miss Margaret's, but Miss Margaret is from the Atmosphere Concerto, not the Geosphere Concerto.
Right.
And then the third one is sort of like my rumination on whatever that concerto is about: earth, sky, sea, or ice.
What I really enjoy about this, the lyrics are beautiful and the storyline behind it. But you wrote this song in a very interesting time signature.
Yeah, in a few.
I thought, yeah, very interesting because you went from 7 to 6. Like the releases,
Yeah.
and and it took me a minute to because when the marimba song,
Well, they layer.
it layers
She
on top of that
starts-
7.
Exactly. So she starts in 3 or in 6, like you said,
Right.
and she stays in 3, and then the piano comes in
And
7.
7, and the drums and the bass comes in at 7.
Yes, but she stays in 3.
Right. And then you start to sing in 7, and then when it releases, it goes to 6.
Yes,
and then it goes back
and
into
then it
7.
goes back into 7.
And then the solo stays over that form, which is amazing.
You know what's crazy about that solo? So that was the second take in the studio. And I had actually had the solo in 6 because it's much easier to solo it. And I was like, I'm not going to make her solo in 7. And so we did it. And she took a great solo. Like Chen Chen's never taken a bad solo in her life. But I was like, it's not quite what I want. And Ilu said, why don't you just put the solo in 7?
Yeah.
And I said, Chen Chen, do you mind? And she goes, I've never taken a solo in 7 before, but I'll try it. And I was like, do you want me to rewrite the chart? And she's like, no, let's just try it and we'll see what happens. And that's what happens. That was the take.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is amazing.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, with the layers that you have and the instrumentation and the colors that Gene is playing, I'm like, yeah, this is a geosphere. It's like I can hear it, and it just, and the time signal, I'm like, wow, you really took it to Mother Earth, because it's, you know, when I think of earthly stuff, I think of Africa. A lot of the music coming out of Africa is in 3, and then a lot of music coming out of America is in 4. And you combine it, it's really a 7. So you actually brought those 2 worlds together. Yeah, I'm sitting there smiling like, yeah, Andromeda, okay.
Thank you.
Hey, what you doing? Hey, what you doing? Okay. Come on, girl. So a lot of people, well, I shouldn't say that. Well, let me rephrase the question. The comments you get back from this song, what are the type of comments you get back from this particular song when people hear it?
Number 1 comment is, what time signature is this?
Okay. So I was right to say what I said, but I figured it out. I figured it out. So
well, yeah, you're a drummer, so like but most people are like, wait, I like it. What's happening?
Right. What's going on is like this, you know. No, but it really has a hypnotic vibe. It's the type of song you can close your eyes to and just flow with it.
And it starts with this solo marimba with that pattern I wrote in. And I wrote the arrangement, and then I was like, ooh, starting with solo marimba is kind of a bold move. I don't know
but it works.
That's gonna be the right choice, or like you think about radio, like, are they going to play this on the radio? And they do. They play this one on the radio all the time. Yeah. But I don't know if you know this track. Bobby Hutcherson has an album called Linger Lane, and he's on marimba. It's like one of the only albums where he's on marimba, and he's great tune called End to You, where he starts with solo marimba. And I was like, well, if Bobby can do it, then I can do it. It's going to be fine.
You know, and you set in a new trend, a new color, a new sound, vocals, marimba, but it lends to the African tradition anyway, because the first thing I thought was balafon and voice. So, you know, when you mentioned marimba, I was like, okay, I was in the same family, not the same instrument, but the same family. So it lends to that, and it's amazing. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. There you go. I'm enjoying this. This is a great project.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a great project. It's how should I say? It's needed. Put it that way. It's needed at this time.
And it kind of marries the other leg of work that I do, which I think a lot of people also don't know, even people that know me, is I do a lot of work in the areas of policy and best practices. And I've sat on a lot of boards and, volunteered for community committees and countywide committees, trying to help write policies and best practices. I studied at Cornell to be able to do that work, to advocate for things that benefit everybody, not just the few people that tend to show up and make a lot of noise.
All right. Well, I think you found your path, and this is a good path for you. So
thank you.
With the music and what you're doing, you're going to draw a lot of people in to listen and pay attention, and hopefully be part of the solution. So,
that's my dream, really, is that it inspires other people to take action, climate action.
Nice. Great. Well, let's move on with some more amazing music by the talented Andromeda Turre and her new project, which is entitled From the Earth. We have listened to a couple songs, and we're going to continue. And the next one that we are going to listen to is entitled Finger on the Trigger.
Ooh, yes. Yeah. This is a good one.
Let's
This
check
one
it
was
out.
inspired by It's Time by Max Roach, if you guys know
Okay.
that one.
Yeah. Nice. Finger on the trigger.
Hey man, we're getting sicker. You got your finger on the trigger. You feel the vigor, cause all your profits getting thicker. You send your bidders and all your fancy city slickers. I hear the bicker, but we don't wanna hear you gibber. Like how you figure, we gotta sip on the pot liquor. We're getting sicker, cause we're the folks you don't consider. You're in a middle, we gotta click our ruby slippers. We're feeling bitter, and you don't wanna see the picture. We're getting sicker, you got your finger on the... Hey man, we're getting sicker. You got your finger on the trigger. We got the scripture. We're tired of calling the great figure. We're moving quicker, and now our movement's getting bigger. Send you the shivers because the plot is getting thicker. Look in the mirror, your people slowly getting sicker. And here's the kicker: our future's headed down the river, not here to sticker. What happens here? It's just a sliver. The feature's dimmer. You try to paint a perfect picture. We beg to differ. You got your finger on the...
I love it.
Thank you.
Hey man, you getting sicker. You got the finger on the
Thank you.
It's about time that jazz has gone back to improv and social commentary. Bravo, Andromeda. Yeah, you got some fans out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you. You know, I could not write an album about climate change and not acknowledge some of the rage that people feel about it. So I put it in that song.
Yeah.
The cat on sax, do I know him? The cat on sax is Chelsea Barrett, and she's killing. She's also one of my best friends. And the piano player that took a solo on this was Elu. Yeah, they both, and apologies to Gene for the tempo on that swing.
He's nailed it, man. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was no problem for him, but I was like, ooh, this is a fast one. Yeah, you know, that tune on the record comes after Miss Margaret's Lament.
Okay.
And that's how I wrote it. So you hear her talking about how everybody in her community has this ring on their ceiling with the particulate matter, and 50% of the kids have asthma, and 1 in 5 kids under the age of 5 ends up in the hospital from breathing issues in her community. And like, you cannot not be angry about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so after I wrote Miss Margaret's Lament, I wrote this to directly address those people who continue to choose profit over people and the environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So finger on the trigger.
Unfortunately, that's the world we live in, but it's good to bring awareness. It's an ongoing issue that is just not new. It's been around for a long time. People just, we as human beings tend to forget things, especially once you move out of a neighborhood and that issue is that's not your problem anymore. And, so it's really good that you're focusing on this, but, and the music is killing. It's great. You have a great, group of musicians supporting you, and it's well put together. And I'm just sitting back here like, yeah, this is needed. I'm enjoying this.
Thank you. We're actually going to perform at live in New York City for the first time on October 8th, which I'm super excited about.
Oh, okay.
And it's everyone from the band that's on the record except Gene. Gene's not going to be able to make it, but we have Jerome Jennings on drums.
My man Jerome.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm
where's
really
the
excited.
gig? Where's the gig?
At the Cutting Room.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at the Cutting Room on October 8th. So I'm excited to see how New York responds to hearing this live.
Yeah, great. Well, Jerome is going to come in and just fill right into those shoes and present it.
Yeah, Jerome's going to do great with this.
Great. Well, your project it stands on its own. It's amazing. I'm enjoying this, and I know we have one more song, but before we play this last song, let our audience know again about your upcoming gig and where they can find your music.
You can find my music anywhere you download or stream. So, if you have iTunes or Spotify, Tidal, I'm on all the platforms. You can find me at andromedaturre.com, or I'm on social media. I'm on LinkedIn at Andromeda Turre. And that's the best way. You can sign up for my mailing list on my website if you want to know when shows are happening. But I will be October 8th at the Cutting Room in New York City, and then on the 17th at the New Rochelle Arts Fest.
Great. All right. I'm loving it. So we're going to wrap this up, close this out with one more song that you've shared with us. And this one is entitled Earth Waltz.
Yes. Enjoy.
Insignificant when you think of space and time, monumental in context of your beating heart and planted on the ground, we grow sung from inside the earth. Listen carefully, consciousness leads us into rebirth. Reverberate the energy. Illuminate
belts.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Thank you.
Very powerful.
Elu took the solo on that one, and then I took a little vocal scat solo on the end.
Yeah, Elu is, this, again, the musicians that you got on this project, they were right for this project.
Yeah, they were amazing to work with. The album is actually recorded by 14 women and 6 men. So you heard the core band, but on some of the other ones, the other tracks, there's background vocals, there's a small choir on one, there's harp, there's didgeridoo, there's poetry, and altogether it's 14 women and 6 men on this album.
Mother Earth.
Mother Earth, yeah.
Hey, well, you did an amazing job with this. I'm really, really glad that you were able to come and share this project from the earth with our audience and share your music and your vision and your advocacy. It's needed. Some great comments from our audience. They love the direction that you're going in, and so do I. So just continue success.
Yes, I see this comment from Klaus. Our environment and jazz is one. Yes, I couldn't agree with you more, Klaus. Thank you.
Yes. So the cutting room.
The cutting room, October 8th.
October 8th, yes.
October 8th. And you can find me at andromedaturre.com.
Great. Well, again, all the best to you. Continue success. Thank you again for joining us. And I'll continue good work. And it's great seeing you. And thanks for coming on the show.
So great to see you too. And I hope I get to play this record with you someday, because I know you'd kill it too, Dion. We would have so much fun playing this together.
I would love to. We'll see. You never know what the future holds.
You never know. Okay.
All the best, Andromeda. Take care. Thanks for coming.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you have it. The great Andromeda Turre with her new project, From the Earth. Talking with her at Sounds of the Diaspora. It's always a pleasure to have folks on here that's doing amazing things and representing, and it's just amazing. So I'm really excited that she was able to join us today. We have another great group coming next week. Our guy Daryl Adams and his jazz band will be joining us next week, and we do hope you can come back to Sounds of the Diaspora and join us next week, Tuesday. All right. So thank you for joining us. Good night again. And we look forward to seeing you next week on Sounds of the Diaspora. All the best to everyone. Have a beautiful evening.
JBH Boutique Care offers you a unique exclusive membership in our nationwide concierge medical services network. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Judine Bontemps-Hill. I'm double board certified in family and obesity medicine. We pair exclusive personalized care with accessibility and convenience. A better way for you to receive immediate quality medical care. Whether at our main Orlando, Florida office, traveling across the U.S. or visiting the States, we bring you the best medical care without waiting for an appointment. Become a member today by calling 407-234-5282 or visit us online at jdhmeg1.com. JBH Boutique Care is proud to sponsor Sounds of the Diaspora, music and conversations with artists, and host Dion Parson every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C.